She is confident, self-aware, emotionally intelligent. She has built her career, set her standards, learned from her past. On the outside, she looks strong. Yet somehow, she keeps finding herself drawn to the same kind of man, distant, guarded, emotionally unavailable. At first, it feels different. He is intriguing, independent, mysterious. She tells herself she doesn't need constant reassurance anyway. She respects his space. She prides herself on not being needy. But slowly, the pattern reveals itself. Conversations lack depth. Vulnerability feels one-sided. She gives more emotional energy than she receives. And eventually, she is left wondering how this happened again. Is it coincidence? Is it bad luck? Or is there something deeper? Something subconscious quietly pulling the strings? Why would a strong, capable woman repeatedly attract and feel attracted to someone who struggles to show up emotionally? The surface explanation is simple: opposites attract. But psychologically, attraction is rarely random. It often reflects unfinished emotional business. Strength can sometimes become armor. Independence can sometimes hide a history of having to rely on oneself too early. When someone grows up learning that their needs might not be fully met, they adapt. They become self-sufficient. They become resilient. They become the dependable one. But beneath that resilience, there may still be a subtle longing, not just for love, but for validation. For someone who finally chooses them fully. An emotionally unavailable partner can unconsciously activate that longing. His distance feels like a challenge. His inconsistency feels like something to solve. When he gives attention, it feels earned, meaningful, special. The emotional reward becomes amplified because it is unpredictable. This is where confusion begins. She does not see herself as chasing. She sees herself as patient, understanding, emotionally mature. She believes she can handle complexity. She believes love requires effort. And sometimes, she believes that if she just shows enough consistency, enough warmth, enough depth, he will open up. But the real tension lies beneath the surface. The connection feels intense but not secure. She feels powerful in most areas of life, yet slightly anxious here. She prides herself on strength, yet finds herself overanalyzing texts, tone shifts, emotional availability. This contradiction can feel disorienting, because strength does not cancel vulnerability. In fact, sometimes the strongest people carry the deepest, quietest validation wounds. And those wounds do not look dramatic. They look like competence. They look like independence. They look like emotional endurance. The question is not why emotionally unavailable men exist. The question is why they feel familiar. And familiarity in psychology is rarely accidental. To understand this pattern, we have to move beyond personality and look at attachment. Attachment theory suggests that the way we bonded with caregivers becomes the blueprint for how we bond in adulthood. If love was steady and responsive, we tend to expect consistency. If love was unpredictable, distant, or conditional, we often internalize a different script. Connection requires effort, patience, and emotional endurance. A strong woman who repeatedly chooses emotionally unavailable partners may not consciously desire distance. But subconsciously, distance can feel familiar. If she learned early that affection had to be earned through achievement, caretaking, or emotional composure, she may equate love with proving her worth. This is where the savior complex quietly enters. Not as arrogance, but as hope. She senses his guardedness and interprets it as pain. She sees potential beneath the detachment. If she can just create enough safety, enough stability, maybe he will finally open up. And when he does, even briefly, it feels deeply rewarding. Neurologically, this intermittent reinforcement is powerful. The nervous system becomes hooked on unpredictability. When attention is inconsistent, dopamine spikes higher when it arrives. The emotional payoff feels intense, which can be mistaken for deep compatibility. Meanwhile, trauma bonding can form, not necessarily from extreme dysfunction, but from cycles of closeness and withdrawal. Each time he pulls away, anxiety rises. Each time he returns, relief follows. The nervous system begins associating emotional turbulence with connection itself. Calm, consistent affection can start to feel unfamiliar or even underwhelming. There is also cognitive dissonance at play. If she sees herself as strong and self-respecting, admitting that she is chasing emotional availability feels contradictory. So the mind reframes the situation. He is just busy. He is independent. He has been hurt before. The story becomes compassionate rather than confrontational. In modern American dating culture, this dynamic is reinforced. Independence is celebrated. Emotional detachment is sometimes mistaken for confidence. Casual relationships are normalized. Vulnerability can feel risky in a world where ghosting and ambiguity are common. A man who withholds emotionally may appear high value. self-contained, desirable. For a woman who prides herself on strength, choosing a consistently available partner can initially feel less exciting. Stability does not trigger the same chemical intensity. There is no emotional mountain to climb, no breakthrough to achieve. But beneath the attraction lies a nervous system pattern. If early validation was inconsistent, the body learned to chase reassurance. If emotional needs were minimized, she learned to minimize them too. She becomes the composed one, the understanding one, the resilient one. And emotionally unavailable men fit seamlessly into that role. They require patience. They require strength. They require someone who does not demand too much. The pattern is not about weakness. It is about conditioning. Until conditioning becomes conscious, it feels like fate. Awareness changes everything, but it is rarely comfortable. The uncomfortable truth is that strength can sometimes protect the very pattern it claims to reject. When you define yourself as independent, resilient, and emotionally capable, it becomes easy to justify staying in dynamics that require endurance rather than reciprocity. You tell yourself you can handle it. You tell yourself you are not easily shaken. You tell yourself love takes patience. But patience is not the same as self-abandonment. Another uncomfortable truth is this: emotionally unavailable men are not puzzles waiting to be solved. They are adults operating from their own attachment patterns. Their distance is not a test of your worth. It is a reflection of their capacity. Trying to love someone's emotional limitations often becomes a subtle attempt to heal your own unmet need for validation. When a strong woman feels drawn to emotional unavailability, it is worth examining what feels familiar in that distance. Perhaps it mirrors a childhood where approval was earned through achievement. Perhaps it echoes a parent who was physically present, but emotionally preoccupied. Perhaps love once felt like something you had to work for, not something freely given. This is where growth begins. Not by blaming yourself, and not by shaming your attraction, but by noticing the internal shift that happens around these partners. The hyper-awareness, the quiet anxiety, the urge to prove your value through consistency, the temptation to accept crumbs because you believe depth will come later. True strength is not proven by how much you can tolerate. It is revealed by what you no longer normalize. Emotionally available love may feel different at first. It may feel steady instead of intense. It may feel calm instead of consuming. There is no emotional chase, no dramatic breakthrough, no intermittent reward. Instead, there is reliability. There is mutual vulnerability. There is reciprocity without persuasion. For someone conditioned to equate love with effort, this can feel unfamiliar. The nervous system may misinterpret calm as lack of chemistry, but chemistry built on unpredictability is often activation, not compatibility. Breaking this cycle requires internal validation. When you no longer seek proof of your worth through someone else's eventual openness, your attraction shifts. You begin to feel drawn toward consistency rather than challenge. You recognize that emotional availability is not boring, it is secure. Strong women do not attract emotionally unavailable men because they are destined to fix them. They are often drawn to them because the dynamic aligns with old survival strategies that once made sense. But survival strategies are not relationship goals. When strength is no longer armor but self-awareness, love stops being a battlefield of potential and becomes a partnership of presence. And in that shift, attraction becomes less about repetition and more about choice.